Hey everyone, welcome back to the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K, aka Trendcrusher. Now I'm going to keep this one short because this is a particularly big episode. I got a chance to speak to Shawn Drover. Now, some of you may know Shawn from his band Idelion, Act of Defiance, but also mostly from Megadeth. And the reason I got to speak to Shawn was not because of any of these bands, but actually his new band, Withering Scorn, which is with his brother Glenn. And this is a project that kind of came out of nowhere of sorts in the last few weeks. So I was really curious about the entire band, their writing process. Do check out their album if you haven't got a chance. It's already out. It's called Prophets of Demise. It's out now on Frontiers Music. But yeah, I think I'll just keep this short. Had a great chat with Shawn, so here it is. Hi, Shawn. Welcome to the podcast.
How are you, buddy? Nice to see you.
Likewise. And, it's strange. When I told you I'm from India, you had that great reaction. And to be honest, for me, it takes me back to like 11 years ago when you played with Megadeth in Delhi. And it was
Yep,
like a massive audience. I don't know, like in excess of 10,000 people. Uh,
sure.
it's not that was not your only trip to India, right? I mean, you had multiple trips.
No, I think I've played there three times. I'm trying to two or two, at least two, maybe three. Um, all the experiences I had there were great. The fans are insane there. They're so
Yeah.
passionate about metal and just really nice people. And I remember one time we stayed there. I think it was the first time we were there. One thing that I thought was insane was the traffic. I mean, going from all different directions is like, oh my God. I thought we are going to get in a car accident 15 times. And then all of a sudden we're at the resort we stayed at. We stayed at this resort for, God, I think it was like 4 or 5 days. And it was just amazing. But it was just off of the street from all this crazy traffic on the street. And you just make a turn, you're into this, you're like in the middle of paradise. So it was, I have a lot of great memories from playing over there, and like I said, the fans, were fantastic. So good memories.
Yeah, yeah. And all these years later, we're talking because of Withering Scorn. And I was quite excited, to be honest, to hear about it because, like, if I'm not mistaken, this has been on the works for a while, but there was not a lot revealed. So let's just start off with that, right? Like, now that you've been working on and off, from what I read, at least for 3 years, how do you feel that now that the album Prophets of Demise is finally out and everyone can hear it?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, we didn't really say anything until literally the record was. We worked on the record on and off for 3 years. Really, when the pandemic started, I mean, that, as you know, shut down the music industry for touring. It shut down so many people from going to work. And my brother owns a recording studio, and he said, "Look, why don't we start working on some new material? You know, just see what happens." And we started doing that. We asked Joe Demise, who was in Fates Warning for many many years. He lives up in Connecticut, and he wanted to do it. So then we had the three of us, and soon we asked Henning Bossi out of Germany, sang on all the Italian records. Big fan of his voice. And so really everybody was on board, and we did it on and off for 3 years. Life kind of gets in the way. Everybody has responsibilities at home, and we have kids and all these things. But we didn't really say anything to anybody about it because there's really no point in saying anything until there's something is done. We didn't have a band name, we didn't have anything, so no social media. So when we got finished the record, we really only took us a little bit less than 2 weeks to get a solid record deal from Frontiers Records. We got a multi-record deal, worldwide deal, and they said, once they make the announcement, then we start with all this stuff, and that's exactly what they did. And then we got social media pages, and anyway, the record was finally released on July 7th, which was last Friday, and now we're talking to people like you and trying to do our best to promote this record. So we're really happy to finally have people hear the record, and the reaction so far, that everybody that I've talked to really seems to like the record. So we're very excited about that.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, right? Because like when I was reading up, and this is one of the things I like doing when I do research, is also kind of see what musicians have said in past interviews and kind of riff off that. And one of the things you talked about is just the dynamic with your brother, right? Like you're writing the music, he's looking at the production in there. How would you kind of describe the chemistry between both of you, right? I mean, like as siblings, obviously there's a bit of competition, but how's that evolved over the years, you would say?
Well, really, honestly, we kind of made a deal in the early '90s when my brother first started having his recording studio, and he does a lot of work. He does all the engineering, all the production. He mixes the record, masters. It's an incredible amount of work. And so I said, look, I'm a songwriter. I said, why don't you let me handle most of the music? He still writes some music. He wrote some stuff on the Withering Scorn record. So I said, let me handle the bulk of the material. We'll put the songs together, and then write. Once that happens, then it's really Glenn is doing most of the work. He's getting the bass tracks from Joe. He's getting the vocals from Henning in Germany. All this stuff on online in Pro Tools and that. So it's really been like that since the early records we did in the '90s. We kind of had the same relationship where I want to take on part of the work too. I write most of the lyrics for this record, just about all the lyrics really, except maybe a couple little lines. But that's just part of my responsibility with the band, and that's what I honestly love to do anyway. So for me, it's really not work. It's something that I love doing, and like I said, though, I mean, Glenn writes stuff as well, just not as much as I do, but because he has so much going on, plus he owns a recording studio, so he's working with other bands too. So he's in the studio almost every day. So he doesn't really have the time to write the record and do everything else. We knew that years ago. I said, let me handle most of the music, and it's really been like that ever since. And it's a good working relationship that we have. We have the same musical vision, and so it really makes it easy for us with the working relationship that we've had for almost 30 years now, really, since 1994.
Now, I hate to bring this up, but from what it sounds like unlike a lot of musicians, you guys were far better prepared for the lockdown and everything else, right? I mean, like you guys had that thing where you all were anyway doing file sharing and stuff like that, where a lot of musicians, or even like having a studio space of your own. But how different was it this time around, especially for you writing the music, right? Because unlike where there was time where probably I don't know, and I'm trivializing it, but please help me. Is like sometimes you just want to take a walk or go out and kind of get your mind, get inspiration from different kind of things, and that wasn't kind of there. I mean, like at least that's how it was in India. I'm not sure how it was where you were. So how different was your mindset when you were writing the Withering Scorn album, even though there was no band name and all of that then?
Right. I mean, honestly, for me, it wasn't any different because when I'm inspired to write music, I'll go up in my music room upstairs and just record music ideas, guitar riffs. I mean, it's really never changed. I mean, what the pandemic did for us was give us the affordability of time. Like we can't do anything else. We're not going on tour next week. Nobody's going on tour. So it's like, well, we may as well be creative and do something new and just see, ultimately, of course, the goal was to make a record, get signed, and put the record out, which is exactly what we did. But even if we didn't get signed, if it just didn't work out where nobody wanted to release the record, we would have released it online ourselves anyway. But we're still old school. We want to have the physical product. See this physical product, kids? Buy it. Yeah, we still are old school that way, where we want to see the physical product from all the work that we did. Anybody can put music on YouTube and put it online, and it's cool and all that. But honestly, I'm old school. I like to see the my work. This is the work that we did for 3 years. You know what I mean? And on this little compact disc and stuff. But it's still important to us to have that. But it's a long answer to your question. But honestly, it didn't. Nothing changed for me in terms of writing the music during the pandemic. I had more time to do it. I mean, there was nothing else to do. Certainly in the first year, I mean, everybody was on lockdown. That. I mean, so we used it to our advantage is what we did.
Okay, I want to pick on what you just said, right? Like you got the affordability of time and the fact that once you get in that space. So if you're looking back at the album, was there a song that you hit upon and then you know that okay, this is for this new project, and it just set the ball rolling? And could you tell me about that moment?
No, honestly, no. I mean, and I know a lot of people. The COVID thing definitely spawned, different projects and all that kind of stuff. And there's been songs written about COVID and all that kind of stuff, which to me, I didn't want to do that because it would have been an obvious thing, and I didn't want to do that. I'm coming from an organic place, and look, things happen in life, and you adapt to it, and you just you try to do the best that you can, right? I mean, we all were in that boat. It's like we're just trying to hang on here and just friggin' get through this crap, man. I mean, it was brutal. We're talking 3 years now. That's it was a really brutal time. Certainly the first year, 2 years. It was just like it was like watching a movie, dude. It's like you're watching stuff on TV. It's like this cannot be real. It can't be real. I mean, but it was real, But again, there's nothing that really sparked any kind of musical inspiration or anything like that with COVID at all. It was just like, okay, we got time to do stuff because we can't do anything else. It didn't inspire me necessarily at all. It was just kind of, for me, it was business as usual because I didn't want to really think about it. I really didn't think about, I'm mad because it's COVID, or I'm upset because of, I just like, here's some more musical ideas. It really didn't change my way of writing or anything. The situation that we're in, it didn't translate or filter into what I was doing musically. And I know a lot of that happened with a lot of people, and that's really great. But I don't think anything is really going to change the way I write music. I just write how I write, and hopefully people like it. As long as I like it and Glenn likes it, that's then we move on from there. But yeah, nothing inspired me with that, or didn't inspire. It was just kind of business as usual for me.
Okay, but going specifically to the album, was there a song that you wrote or a riff of the song or certain part where you knew that you were onto that path where you were going to be writing more music specifically?
No, there
No?
wasn't, because the way I write music is like I said, I'll go up in my music room, and if I get inspired, I'll come up with some guitar riffs and I'll record them. So
Okay.
soon after, I'll have 40, 50 short videos of different guitar riffs.
Wow.
So then we just put them together. But it's always been like that. I didn't write a song that inspired, you know what I mean, that triggered
Got it.
my inspiration. Because I never write songs in its entirety. I'll write ideas. Here's a guitar riff. Here's a guitar riff. Oh, these two fit together. Oh, that one fits together with these two. It's always been like that. It's never, nothing. I never wrote an entire piece of a song in one sitting, and oh, this is the start of the record. It wasn't like that at all.
Okay.
Like I said, it's always been the same. My process has always been the same. I'll write when I'm inspired. I'll go and record some guitar riffs, and then assemble 50, 60 of them. And then me and Glenn start putting the pieces together. That's all. It's been like that for almost 30 years. So.
Wow. I mean, that sounds like a really interesting process. Just kind of like putting the different.
It's like a musical puzzle, right? It's like like a musical puzzle, it's an audible musical puzzle. So we just, you could see what riffs fit, and often, again, like I said, it took us 3 years to write that record. So there was riffs that I recorded that on video that we would go back and look at, and I don't even remember doing them. Like I'm like, oh, where's that? I don't even remember doing that riff. That's why I'll always have a little thing, I'll say, this is the kind of riff it is, and so it'll make me remember, because I would go, I don't even remember doing that, but that's why you record stuff, because if you just think you're going to keep, certainly at my age, if you think you're going to keep all those ideas in your head, if I forget what I did 5 minutes ago. But that's why I record things on video now, because I can see what I'm playing, and I'll make reference points on the video. I'll say it goes like this, or do it like this, just so I'll remember. So but it's always been like that.
Okay. So we've talked a bit about how the album came together and stuff like that. Let's give our listeners a taste of Prophets of Demise. Which song would you like me to play, and why would that song?
Well, I would start with the opening track, which is a title track for the record, "Prophets of Demise." It's just a great song to start the record. It kind of sets the tone for what you're going to get. Although all the songs are different on the record, it's just a great punchy in the face metal tune. We come out of the gate with all guns blazing. So I think that's a good way to start for sure. Is playing the title track, which is "Prophets of Demise."
Awesome. So here it is. And that was Withering Scorn, Prophets of Demise. And I've got Shawn Drover with me telling me more about the album. Now, one of the things I was also curious is, considering just the vast discography and the amount of work both you and Glenn have done, and just the kind of people that you all have got involved with, played in various different bands over the years, and like 3 decades, as you said. How did you kind of arrive on Joe DeBessie and Henning Basse as part of the band? Like, what was one of those things that kind of clicked where you knew that, these are going to be our bandmates in this new
The
project?
guys, yeah. Well, Glenn recorded a solo record under the name Walls of Blood. He put it out, I think, God, 4 years ago, I think it was. And what that was is it was a record of metal tunes that had different singers on it, had different musicians on it playing different things. It was just kind of a record he did for fun and just have some friends on and people that he respected. And so anyway, Joe ended up playing 2 songs for bass on that record. And Henning actually sang on 2 songs for the record as well. So Glenn got had a kind of a working relationship with both of those guys, as he did with some other various people who sang on the record. Todd LaTorre from Queensryche sang on a song, Chuck Billy sang on a song from Testament, and it's actually a really great record. And so when it came time for us, Glenn and I started to get, say, let's record some new music during the pandemic. Really, the first guy we thought of for bass was Joe Demise, just based on, he's a great bass player. He's a good guy. He lives, he's in Connecticut. He's not terribly far from Glenn or myself. And he had he had a Pro Tools set up in his house. So he could record in his house, because like, here we are in the pandemic, you can't go in a recording studio. So it was important to have people that actually were set up in their homes with Pro Tools and recording gear. So that was an important part of it too. So Joe, so we got Joe based on that, and same with Henning. I mean, Henning, like I said, sang on 2 songs on Glenn's Walls of Blood record, and he did a great job, and he was set up with Pro Tools. He's fully set up in his house as well. So it really was that simple. I mean, first off, we love them as musicians. We think they're great musicians, and we respect them both. And they're into the music that we're creating. So that, which is also important. So it really wasn't that difficult they were our first choice, and luckily they wanted to do it. So it was really that simple, But again, the circumstances as they were, we had to have that in consideration, because like you said earlier, you can't just go to the recording studio down the street in the middle of COVID and that wasn't an option. So we had to have guys who were set up to do that in various parts of the world. And that's really where it started. But, even without the pandemic, we probably wanted to choose them first anyway. But
Yeah.
out of necessity, in a way, we had to make sure the musicians we chose were set up with recording equipment in their homes, and they were into what we were wanting to do. So it just worked out really well for us.
Okay. Now, this is one of the things, again, I really wanted to talk to you about is social media, right? And I wanted to understand your relationship with it, because when you go to Withering Scorn or you go on your profiles, you're out there talking about the album, you're giving updates and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so different compared to, how things were done earlier, right? So
Yep.
What's that adaptation or that learning been for you like? And I mean, is that something you enjoy? Actually, that's a very basic question to ask you.
Not really.
Okay.
To give you an honest answer, I mean, look, it's a necessary evil, isn't it? You have to promote your record. Again, here we go. Everything keeps coming back to the pandemic. With this pandemic, now so many bands are not able to tour. They're canceling tours because of the cost of petrol in Europe, the cost of bus drivers, buses, the lack of availability of bus drivers and buses, because everybody and their grandmother's on tour right now, right?
Yeah,
So it's
insane.
like, it's just really, you've got to find ways to promote your product, right? Ultimately, right?
Yeah.
So now with the advent of social media, everybody's doing that. But again, that's almost the problem, is like everybody and their grandmother is posting on Instagram that they just went to Starbucks and had a latte. It's like, It's like you kind of get lost in the shuffle of all of the things that everybody that you're posting, that I'm posting. It just, we can go on Instagram right now. There'll be 20 new posts from somebody. It's like, you can't be on it 15 hours a day looking at the updates. So it's complicated. I understand that it's a necessity, and I'm embracing it as much as I can. I mean, I'm on it almost every day with the new band because I believe in what the music that we put out, so I have to promote it. So I don't mind promoting things, but this is just such a new and different thing than what we did back in the day. But you have to adapt to that, and you have to try to roll with it. So, we're doing the best we can with it. And, it is what it is, right? The record company does their
Yeah.
job, do our job. But, would I rather it be in the 80s when it was just on the radio and you went and bought metal magazines and you bought it because I would definitely prefer that. But that's not reality anymore. So I try to adapt to it the best that I can, and I understand what it is, and so you just try to make the best of it.
No, I mean, first of all, I gotta give you props for it, right? Because that's where I was coming from. Like when you said that, you don't like it, it doesn't come across. And I totally understand where you're coming from about like being comfortable selling product and pushing things out, and I'm glad it came from you and not me, because that's one of my big problems with Instagram, right? I mean, like here you have this band talking about like, I don't know, Satan or stuff like that. But then they're also complaining that, oh my God, Starbucks got my name wrong, or this coffee is not exactly with oat milk. You know what I mean? Like you suddenly realize like, what the hell?
Right.
So,
And again, there's you look at everybody's different, right? Depends who you are. Some people will post on Instagram 35 times a day. Some people will post on Instagram once in 35 days. So it's like you just kind of try to find a balance. I try to find a balance to where I'm not like on it too much where it goes, oh God, here's Shawn again, the 10th video today talking about something stupid. I try to put things up that are about the record. If something happens, then it gives me something to talk about, or something to put a picture up about on Facebook or that kind of stuff. But, to post on there 15 times a day, I don't think it does any good. I don't see any results of that. But if you don't post on there at all, then you don't have a chance to get some new fans. So, I understand that balancing act of trying to promote it, but not not be just stupid about it where you're just on there every friggin' hour. If I'm on, I'll try to be on there like once a day or once every 2 days, and try to have something, in regards to the record that, to promote it. Did you, here's a link from Amazon. Did you buy the CD? Or here's a link to listen to it on Spotify, or things like that to promote the band,
But I want to talk about the flip. What's it been like interacting with fans now, right? I mean, because like I am of that age where I just was at that cusp where tape trading and stuff like that had kind of just ended. Or you had even like, which was to me as an older person reading it, where you had like bands putting out send self-addressed
stamped envelopes,
and things like that.
How awesome
right?
is that? I know. Yeah,
And that was so cool just to think about that. But now literally someone can look you up on Instagram, hit you up and say, hey, I really loved the album, or hey, I'm listening to your album. How's that?
Or hey, I hate your guts and I hope you die. All that you got all that shit too. So it's like, which is, I find that stuff funny. That stuff doesn't bug me. But yeah, I mean, when we did that back in the day, it's because you were passionate enough to find this band that you just, through tape trading, or your buddies, got to say, oh my God, check these guys out. They're sick. They're so heavy. And then you go, oh my God, I'm going to contact them because their tape is awesome. I want a copy, That was like ground zero, tape trading metal stuff, because those people like you and me were so passionate about it. And just really just like, which is a great thing, but yeah, like you said, everything is now anybody can get access to anybody at any time. Everybody's got Facebook. Everybody has, this and that. So, engage in terms of engaging with people. You can answer or not answer anybody, right?
Yeah.
So I try to keep that at bay too. If someone says something nice, or if I see something, I try to answer it when I can and stuff. I don't necessarily check that too often, but again, some people are on it, and then then they engage with something, and it goes online. Well, this guy, this rock star said something about it, and then they start fighting like it's like, dude, I don't, I'm not into all that shit. That to me is, if you don't like something, if you don't like my new record, it doesn't bug me one bit. I mean, I don't want everybody to like a record. I want people who like what we're doing. If they love the record, that's great. But if somebody hates this kind of music and say they hate it, they should hate it. What do I care? I don't. There's certain kinds of music that I don't like either. But I'm not going to go on their website and say they suck. I don't have. I got better things to do with my time than to be a little bitch and go online and talk about all the shit that you hate. Who cares? I think it's funny. But you know what I mean? It's like watching a movie. It's like, if you hate horror movies, why would I go on a horror movie website and say how much I hate horror movies? Just don't watch it. Yeah. If you know what I mean? So that's, that stuff doesn't bug me. I find it funny, actually.
Which also brings me to something I always enjoy talking to musicians and asking them about is, do you actually actively listen to contemporary or new bands, or what's that for you? I mean, like, again, since you talked about like CDs, would you actively go out and check out a new CD, whether it's online or in stores, and see what are the new bands? Is there anyone that's caught your eye?
Recently, I mean, a lot of bands that I'll tell you something funny, and they've been around for over 20 years. And I kind of got late to the Mastodon party. I didn't get into those guys. Yep. Now I heard, I heard one of the records in a record store. It must have been 15 years ago. And I can't remember what record it was. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what record it was, but I remember hearing, that's a really cool riff, but I didn't buy the CD that day for whatever reason. I think it was Crack the Sky. I think it was a record called Crack the Sky.
That was a beautiful album.
And I heard it was the first song on that record. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but so then probably in the last 3 years, 4 years, I just heard them again. I got reintroduced to them, and I, so I went back and bought a lot of the records. I think the new record, Hush and Grim, I think that record's a masterpiece. I think it's the best record they've done. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. They're so original, and I just love that band. But again, they're not a new band. Like, they've been around for 20 years, at least 20 years now. So, but I discovered them recently, and it was kind of exciting in a way. I almost was glad that I didn't catch them before, because it was like new and fresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Emperor's Sand's a great record. They just got so many great friggin' tunes, but in terms of like really new bands, shit, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody that's like blowing me away. I'd have to think. You kind of caught me off guard. I don't, off the top of my head, I can't really...
While you think of that, or at least that runs in your head, call it coincidence, call it what you want. Prior to logging on for this call, I actually was listening to Mastodon's Blood Mountain, because someone tweeted it and said,
another great record.
Yeah. And I was like, shit. And the thing is, like, that album's like 17 years old, but you still kind of like enjoy it, right? And I think that's one of the cool things about a band like them. I actually caught them live around the same time Blood Mountain was released. So they were still like getting up there. And now they're big, man. I mean, like, I don't think they play small shows anymore.
No, they're on tour with Gojira right now. I think it is. I mean, they're here. They live here in Atlanta. I mean, they're about 30 minutes from me. They have their own recording studio. They're smart enough. Those guys are smart enough to, invest in a building. I don't know if they bought the building or they're leasing it, but they've had their recording studio in there now for, again, since really before the pandemic started. So there's another example of a band kind of, taking advantage of it. I think they had the facility before the pandemic, but
Yeah.
you know, again, you know, they're that band's smart enough to know that going to a recording studio is a very expensive thing. And they were smart enough to get their own equipment and all that stuff. And now they're self-contained. They can, here they are. That the new album is a double album. There's no way they would have the budget to do that if they were just under normal circumstances or going to a recording studio. It would have cost them thousands and thousands of dollars. And they're smart enough to get, to realize, hey, we should get our own studio here, and we can record our own music whenever we want. And that's the same for me, really, for Glenn and I, in a different way. But Glenn's had his own place for almost 29 years now. So that's really where all this came from. Is had Glenn not had a studio, we wouldn't have been able to have this record, at all.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you, and I'm going to make them quick. But I can't talk to you and not ask about Act of Defiance, because that's actually an album I really enjoyed in there. Could you share any updates about it? Anything?
Well, Chris. We kind of disbanded right before the pandemic, and Chris had joined In Flames, which was a great opportunity for him. We've known those guys for years, and that's just a great band for Chris to be in. Chris loves touring and all that stuff, and so he's been with those guys now for, I think, going on 5 years. I think it is now. So, he's really busy with that, and then the pandemic hit again. So I just kind of took it as, I want to do something new anyways. You know what I mean? So that it all kind of worked out in a way. With Act of Defiance kind of breaking up and me starting something new. Matt, our bass player of Act of Defiance, he's doing new stuff with Shadows Fall now. They've done some shows. So it's all kind of worked out for all of us. But that was a good time. We were in that. We did that band for, I think, 3.5, 4 years. We put out 2 records. We did a ton of touring. We did 4 North American tours off the first record. We did 3 off the second record and went to Europe. We really got down in there and did a lot of touring to support that band. And there was a lot of great experiences with that band. But it just kind of worked out to get, like I said, Chris had an opportunity to join a much bigger band, and I think he made the right decision. So we're all happy for him doing that. But that's it's just too much for him having to full play with that band, and then also spending the quality time that you need to do another Act of Defiance record. So we just kind of called it a day, and we're all fine. Okay. We're all happy with what we're doing. So, but it was a good experience overall, for sure.
And talking about live, do you have any plans of taking Withering Scorn live soon? What can you share at this moment?
What I can share is, again, we touched on this earlier. The cost of touring is astronomical, and bands are canceling tours left and right. Again, we only had this record out for 4 days. So, if the Vakken Festival or a festival in India came calling and said, look, we'd love you to play the festival next year, or if we can string together a couple of weeks worth of shows or some festivals, we would certainly consider it in the future. But right now, for us to go as a brand new band that many people don't even know yet, to go on tour and lose our ass financially, it's not intelligent. So we're kind of we're going to kind of sit and wait. We're staying busy with Glenn, and I are already getting ideas for the second record.
Awesome.
Because we're not touring, we want to stay busy and stay creative. So we're keeping really busy with promoting our new record, Prophets of Demise, and also starting getting ideas for the second record. So we know we can't tour, and we're okay with that. We've been around the block. We understand how this all works. It would be financial suicide for us to go to Europe for 5-6 weeks, and it would be such a losing affair financially. And again, most people don't even know who we are. So you got to kind of establish a fan base a little bit first before you can really even think about that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But we'll see what happens in the future. If this record does really well and a lot of people really love the record, we'll revisit that in maybe a year's time and who knows? Maybe some festivals will start calling in Europe, and we'll consider it. So, but in the meantime, we're already starting ideas for the second record, just kind of starting doing that process, getting musical ideas and guitar riffs, and so we're staying busy.
Sean, it's been great talking to you, but I want to leave the last couple of minutes. You want to give shout outs? How do people reach out to you? The band? This is all your space.
Yeah, I mean, just we're on social media now. We have Facebook page, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. I mean, just like we talked about before. I mean, I'm on there, trying to promote, like even every couple of days, just trying to put some new information out, or we're pretty responsive with the way people are trying to interact with us on social media. So come find us, man. Check out the record. It's getting great reviews right across the board, and people seem to be really digging it. So we're real thankful, and thanks to you all the way from India. It's nice of you to reach out and to do this interview. So we're I'm no stranger to India. I've been there many times, and it's a great country with great fans. So hopefully, a lot of people over there will listen to this podcast and go check the band out.
Definitely. And I think that's a great note to call it a wrap on this episode. Thanks so much, Sean. Pleasure, and hope to see you live sometime soon.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
These are the kind of conversations I really enjoy, right? I mean, like, who would have thunk, like, I don't know, 11, 12 years ago when I saw Megadeth live, that I'd actually speak to a member of the band then, right? And I really enjoyed speaking to Sean. I really liked how he kept it real, like, of the realities of being in a band in 2023, and really what's changed for bands itself when it comes to touring. So if you enjoyed the single that I played of Prophets of Demise, do check out the album. I'm going to leave a link to the comments, and yeah, do follow them on social media and stay updated with the band. And while you're doing that, also search for Trendcrusher on whichever social media platform you're on. I'm not yet on Threads. I don't know. I'm holding out for now. But yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I'm available all over. Follow me, stay updated for more such interviews. And yeah, I'll see you guys very soon. Cheers.